Well, this here is my confession. Here are 19 Reasons to Watch, 1922. Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. I'm Dave Musson at Dave Musson on Instagram, and this is a place where I talk to you about all things Stephen King. And in this video, we're continuing our chronological walk through the movies and adaptations based on Stephen King's works. And we've reached 2017's Netflix movie 1922, which stars Thomas Jane and is based on the novella of the same name that was captured in Full Dark, No Stars from 2010. And if you want to see my 19 reasons to read Full Dark, No Stars, then do check out that video. So I'm going to give you 19 reasons to watch this movie, and well, we'll get into it in just a few moments. But first, a couple of very quick plugs, if you'll indulge me. So, the plugging checklist. You can check out my range of Stephen King themed band shirts. Link is in the description. That's where I mash up well-known band logos with Stephen King stuff. It's kind of fun. You can pick up my multi-award winning collection of short stories, Once More Around the Sun. Kind of fun as well, also in the description. And if you like what I'm doing here, you can become a member of this channel. You can become a constant viewer, get access to exclusive content, early access to regular content, fun emojis, that kind of thing as well. And if nothing else, make sure you hit subscribe so you don't miss any future videos, and well, because it helps. Okay, cool. So as I said, this time we're covering 1922, starring Thomas Jane, Molly Parker, Dylan Schmid, and it's a film that doesn't get talked about enough among constant readers. It's quiet, it's bleak, it's dark, and when it needs to be, it's nasty, and it's really, really good. And I'm going to give you 19 reasons to watch it in this video. Now, if you're worried about potential spoilers, don't be. Anything that might spoil a first time watch, I will cluster behind a spoiler alert. So at that point, if you need to, you can find the timestamp to the outro and skip ahead to the end. Or of course, you can watch the whole thing. Now, if you want to watch this movie, it's a Netflix movie, so it's available on Netflix. Oh yeah, and this movie has rats. So if you don't like rats, well, fair warning, okay? Watch out for those rats, in fact. Here are 19 Reasons to Watch, 1922. So my headline reason to watch this is that it's simply a compelling movie that is overwhelmingly sad and bleak, but that has a great payoff. And it's patient. It's a slow burn. It doesn't rely on jump scares or cheap horror tropes to hook you in. It is a gripping story, and it just shows how truly dark human beings can be with each other. It's brilliantly acted, and the darkness that you get from this story on the page translates brilliantly to the screen in this adaptation. So I mentioned this is a slow burn, and that's definitely the case, but it's not a boring one. So this story is told by our narrator, Wilf. And rather than being anything boring, it is this fascinating sort of exercise in patience. And we get to see the whole process of the sort of planting the seed of a bad idea, and then watching that bad idea sprout up and bloom and fully open out, and then rot, and then spread its poison everywhere around it. It's great. Now, I already mentioned this movie has rats. So if you don't like rats, well, if you really don't like rats, you probably shouldn't watch this movie. But this video is about reasons to watch this movie. So if you can cope with rats, it's a good tester for you, because the rats in this movie, whew. So what's the hook in this one? Well, it's very similar to the story we get in Full Dark, No Stars. Our narrator, Wilf, confesses to us, his audience, that in 1922, he murdered his wife to stop her selling their farm and moving them to the city. And we see what happens with that and what happens to him and his son in the aftermath, and ultimately follow him through to the pretty bleak, unhappy ending that he gets. So this was something of a passion project for director Zach Hilditch. So he was working on something else when he picked up a copy of Full Dark, No Stars, and he was immediately drawn in by 1922. And he actually decided to write a speculative script for it before he even obtained the rights for it. So you can tell he clearly fell in love with the story. And for me, that admiration of the story comes across in his treatment of it. Now, there are clearly some scenes where CGI has been used here to help generate weather effects and some of the animal stuff, but it's fine. They're done in a way that doesn't impede your viewing, isn't over the top, is sensible for what was likely a pretty modest budget for this film, and they just work. They complement what's on screen. They're how CGI should be used. So let's talk about the cast, which is small but perfectly formed. So a lot of the smaller side characters are all good. I really like Dylan Schmid as Henry, who is Wilf's sort of love-struck puppy of a son, who helps Wilf deal with Wilf's wife. I think his performance is really heartbreaking and really harrowing, and really enjoyed it. So Molly Parker as Arnett, Wilf's wife, is terrific. So she clearly hates her husband and wants to do anything to spite him. But where we really see her true colours is where Wilf has told her that he's going to agree to sell and they can move, and she gets drunk and then starts just spouting all this stuff towards Wilf and towards Henry that really shows her true colours and really translates that sort of nasty character that King draws on the page onto the screen brilliantly. It looks like it was a really fun role to play. You kind of hate her, but also she gets murdered, so, you know, she maybe didn't deserve that, but she's nasty as well. A lot of fun. However, this is Thomas Jane's movie. I loved his Hemingford Home, Nebraska drawl, sort of cranked out of a mouth that barely unclenches its teeth the whole time it's speaking. And while you don't necessarily sympathize with him and what he's done, you're certainly compelled by him, and you want to know his story and hear it all the way to the end. So lastly, before spoilers, I think more than anything, it's the tone of this one that impressed me. It captures the tone of the story brilliantly. It would have been very easy to go over the top with this movie and make it cheesy and loud and in your face, but instead, it beds in on the misery and lets it fester and just rot away at you, and it's all the better for it. More people need to watch this movie. Just like Gerald's Game, it deserves to be in a wider distribution than just on Netflix. Okay, from this point onwards, I'm going to be talking about some of my favourite moments from this movie, things that might spoil a first-time watch, so consider this your spoiler alert, and if you need to, then you can skip ahead to the outro using the timestamp, and I will see you there. Otherwise, stick around because I've got a few more reasons for you to watch 1922 coming right up. So in terms of similarities with the book, well, this one follows the book pretty closely, and that's fine. After all, novellas are great for turning into movies. They're just about the right length. So one of this movie's key ideas is that murder is hard work, and I think the film gets that across really well. When we're watching Wilf and Henry do what they have to do after they've killed Arnett to make sure they don't get caught, it is genuinely exhausting. Like, I don't see how anyone has time to murder people when all of the clear-up involved and all of the cover-up afterwards. Phew. So on to some of my favourite moments then, and let's start with the murder of Arnett, which is messy and clumsy and not very easy. Okay, rat warning incoming, but the rats chowing down on the udders of the cows is just a whole load of, oh my god, what? While we're talking cows, the cow falling down the well is kind of shocking, but also a little bit funny. I don't know. I think that may be a nervous laughter at the shock of just seeing a cow drop down the well. Let me know what you think. Did you find that bit funny? However, my favourite scene, we're going back to the rats, so if you've got a rat thing, skip ahead a bit. But my favourite scene is where we first see Arnett's corpse in the well, and there's the rat in her mouth. Ah, no thanks. That's my favourite line. It's Wilf's realisation about his feelings towards his wife.
I had come to hate her.
So on to connections to other King works then. Thomas Jane, obviously we've seen him in Dreamcatcher and The Mist. Dylan Schmid was in Horns, which is based on a Joe Hill book, and Joe Hill is Stephen King's eldest son. And then one of the side characters is played by Eric Keenlyside, who we also see in Dreamcatcher and The Diary of Ellen Rimbauer. When it comes to Easter eggs, I didn't really spot any. Obviously it's set in Hemmingford Home, which is where Mother Abigail lives in The Stand and where adult Ben Hanscom lives in It. But that was also part of the original story. Like, I didn't really spot any other Easter eggs. But did I miss anything? Let me know if I did. So lastly then, the ending. Now, you could view this ending as a bit of a cheap comic book ending that is jarring in tone from the bleakness and the misery of the rest of the movie. I can understand if you think that, but for me that's not the case, because it's not like we see them do anything, or it's not like there's a scream off screen like we get at the end of the original Pet Sematary. We're kind of left to our own imaginations to fill in the blanks, which is always more scary. And for me, I just see this as everything has finally caught up to Wilf, and he's going to get the sweet relief that he's craving, but it's not going to be pleasant when it happens. It's just one final bit of misery before he snuffs out. So I thought it worked. Okay, there we go, 19 Reasons to Watch 1922. Have you watched this movie? If you have, let me know what you think of it. If you haven't yet, are you tempted to go and watch it now? I suppose it depends if you've got Netflix and if you can cope with rats, but honestly, this is a great movie. And if you're going to go over there and watch this, then you can also watch Gerald's Game, which is also a Netflix one. And I think In the Tall Grass is on there as well. So, you know, maybe see if you can get a free trial on Netflix and just binge all the King stuff while you're there. Sounds good? Yeah, I thought so. Okay, some other things you can do. You can become a constant viewer. That's my name for becoming a member of this channel if you particularly enjoy what I'm doing here. And of course, you can just click subscribe. That helps massively. I've also got a collection of short stories called Once More Around the Sun. It won some awards in 2024. You can find a link to it in the description. And you can check out my range of Stephen King themed band shirts where I merge music and the master of horror to some kind of niche geeky t-shirts. Yeah, cool. Okay. Thanks as ever for watching. Do join me again soon, because next time we're going back to Castle Rock.